स्पॉटलाइट में आपका स्वागत है। मैं हूं आपकी होस्ट अमीता। Join me weekly as I talk to inspiring guests who will share their success stories. आज हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में है एक medical doctor for humans who strives also to preserve our environment and to protect our animals. While still practicing family, emergency and addiction medicine in Toronto, he takes part in many projects that benefit our humans, animals and environment both locally and internationally. It's my pleasure to welcome to our show Dr. Tushar Mehta. Tushar, it's exciting to have you here today.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
And I'm looking forward to talking about all the projects you're part of because you're pretty much helping our environment. So we want to educate people about all the projects. But usse pehle, tell us a little bit more about your upbringing and how did you come to be a medical doctor?
Well, I got the idea of becoming a medical doctor when I was very young because we traveled to India. And when we were there, I actually saw a lot of poor people. And I even remember seeing kids that were my own age that were in a very bad situation. So at the time, it was said that if you're a doctor, you can help people. And that just got into my mind. And I sort of carried that forward. So it was actually a very superficial knowledge of anything about medicine. But it was my motivation until I got to medical school and I found out what the real world of medicine is actually like.
That's interesting. So I feel like it was kind of destined. You already had that spirituality, that compassion within you, and then medicine was just a means to take it to the world and, you know, to help the world. So you grew up in Canada, is that right? Or?
That's right. I was born in the UK, but I came to Canada when I was 4 years old and really grew up over here.
Okay, awesome. So right now you are practicing, like I was saying, family, emergency, and addiction medicine. Wow, that's multiple hats. How do you manage that?
Well, actually, because I've been doing more and more volunteer work and some international things over time, I've narrowed it down to just emergency medicine currently, but I did practice all three for quite a long time.
But that's even emergency medicine, I know it's quite a bit, and pretty much you see all the three in emergency medicine kind of deal.
You see everything in emergency medicine, yeah. Old, young, every single kind of problem you can imagine.
Amazing. So you just mentioned about that volunteership. I know you do it internationally, like you mentioned, but you're also part of social organizations locally too. For example, I believe you were part of the Project Canoe.
That's right. Yeah. Project Canoe is an organization I've worked with for a long time as their medical director and sometimes helping with fundraising and whatnot. It's an organization that helps underprivileged youth from the Greater Toronto area to become more empowered and develop themselves through going on wilderness canoe trips. And it's quite an intense experience that does amazing things for these young people.
Amazing. So I love the fact that through being a doctor, you're helping with the medical problems, say through emergency medicine, but you're also helping them maybe prevent having medical problems, especially with our youth. You hear a lot in the news these days how they get into bad company, but providing resources like these or venues like these where they can take it into creative stuff really does help, and hopefully they don't get into trouble and they don't end up getting medical problems.
People have all kinds of needs, and some of them are medical and from the physical sort of nature of things, but people also, have all kinds of social needs. There's a lot of people who come from a background where it may be abusive or they don't have the support they need as a young person. And growing up, that can lead to all kinds of, personal problems and social problems for them. So, developing their confidence and their good feeling about the world and finding their path, and being around good people is a great thing for young folks, and Project Canoe provides that.
So as we can hear, Dr. Mehta does a lot. I mean, he's helping us as humans, but beyond that, he's taking that compassion and, helping us also protect all the other non-human creatures and our environment. So coming to that, how did that value get instilled in you? We heard that when you went back to India during one of your trips, you saw the poverty, you wanted to help the people, but when did it come to you that it's not just the people that need help, there is also our, non-human companions and the environment that needs help?
I think over time, I learned a lot about initially human suffering. I saw people who suffered when I was in India, but then, even as a child, you could see things on the television about all kinds of wars that are going on, people that are hungry around the world, and all these things. These things affected me, very deeply, and I learned more and more about them in detail as I grew. Now, I also learned that the environment, is also suffering, and I learned about the suffering of animals alongside. Now, scientifically, an animal suffers and feels the exact same pain or emotion or fear as a human does. They may not have the same intelligence, that may vary, but the capacity to feel and suffer or suffer pain is exactly the same. We have the same neuroreceptors, we have the same parts of the brain that do that. Okay? And so learning that and learning about that made me eventually have similar compassion as I did for humans to also to animals. And in terms of environmental issues, they ultimately affect humans, but they affect all life on Earth. And most people aren't so sensitized to it, but the more you learn about it, the more you realize that the entire planet is actually in a lot of trouble.
Very well said. I love the fact that you have the scientific backing behind it, and what we just heard has taken you to help humans, animals, and the environment. We're going to find out about how that made you vegan and what are the benefits of such a diet. We also want to hear about how that has helped you bring your own values into the Jainism that you grew up with. So I'm excited to find out about that. लेकिन उससे पहले लेते एक छोटा सा break. Spotlight में फिर से आपका स्वागत है. I'm excited to be talking to Dr. Tushar Mehta about how he's helping not just humans, he's helping our animals and our environment. So Tushar, we were talking about how you are helping the animals and where that came from, and our environment and where that came from. अब आपसे पूछेंगे, I know you have grown up with Jainism, but with what you have seen and experienced, you have instilled your own values into Jainism and taken it to a whole different level. And I know you're taking it to the children in camps that you are part of. Tell us more.
Yeah, that's right. Me and some friends run an organization that runs a Jain camp for Jain kids in the Toronto area, and also one that is for people of all backgrounds, where we do education about nonviolence, ecology, and compassion in the camp. And it's like a children's camp that lasts a week, and we run that too, okay? But non-denominational. So for me, Jainism, I've really tried to learn the philosophy of Jainism. And a lot of times people sometimes get caught up in things like rituals or whatever, but I've tried to really focus on the philosophy and the spirituality and how to apply it to modern day problems, especially the greatest problems of modern times. So I think that's where the philosophy of nonviolence is the most important, is when we apply it to the areas of the greatest need.
Very well said. So it's great. Where can we find out more about these camps? Because you said it's non-denominational, and that's awesome.
There's an organization called Towards Ahimsa. Towards Ahimsa. If you Google that, you'll see towardsahimsa.com, I think is the organization. And then you could see there's an eco-veg camp, and that's for kids of all backgrounds. And there's the Jain camp too. Somebody can go there even if they're not Jain, it's okay.
Awesome. So towardsahimsa.com. So we'll look that up, and that's great. So then now let's come back to the main thing that I'm so excited to find about is the vegan diet. You have turned a vegan now. With all that we have heard, you have actually become more aware about how we can exist in harmony with everything, like humans, animals, environment, and now you're a vegan. So tell us a little bit more about that. Enlighten people what a vegan diet is all about.
So a vegan diet means that people eat no animal products, but only products that are from plants or plant-based sources. So no meat, fish, poultry, no eggs, no dairy. So excluding those things, okay? Now, people don't realize that in the world, on the planet, currently, there's over over 70 billion animals killed per year, 70 billion. And that's about 2,000 animals per second that is killed on the earth for people eating, okay? And that all the cows that people get milk from and the chickens, and they are all eventually slaughtered. And even if it says that it's humane, that's what they market it as, but it's never really that humane if you actually go and investigate what's going on. So there's a lot of suffering. And for fish, there's 1 to 2 trillion fish killed per year. That's 30,000 to 60,000 per second that are being killed. And that's how many lives are being harmed. This takes a great toll on animals, but also on human health. Diabetes, heart disease, and certain types of cancer are increased when we eat animal products. So the environmental toll, the health toll, and the toll on suffering, is great. So it's a great thing that we can do for all three reasons. Some people have one or the other reason, or some people believe in all three. And it's a reason to go more towards a vegan diet and hopefully fully towards a vegan diet.
Wow, we don't think about it that way when we look at the food on our plate. We are so thinking at the moment, but as you put it, like if you think about it, it really is a chain reaction. If you think about it, it is definitely affecting us, and it's coming back at us, because if we're not taking care of the environment, of the animals, eventually it's going to affect our own health.
And I see people every day in the emergency department who could definitely benefit from a vegan diet, because you see all their diabetes and all the medications that they're on, the heart disease, their obesity, everything like that. And also there's a lot of athletes now that are vegan. People like Serena and Venus Williams are vegan, some UFC fighters, some pro athletes. And so we're getting more and more examples of vegans who are doing amazing things, and seeing the stereotype that you don't get enough protein or whatever is really not true.
Yeah, no, I was just going to play the devil's advocate for a bit and say, as medical doctors, we say, okay, if you're not getting, if you're just being on a vegan diet, you're missing out on nutrition.
Right.
So that's what I was going to ask you.
So one of the downsides, I think a lot of people who switch from a traditional, whatever, North American diet or whatever part of the world they come from, and let's say they want to become vegan, if they're not just aware of the things that they should be eating, they may not have added those things in. So they don't know how to cook beans and lentils and tofu, or they don't know the great sources of calcium and iron. There's fantastic sources, but if they're not eating them, then they're not getting it. So you have to do a little bit of education, a little bit of practice. It's not that hard. There's lots of great resources available as well. But if we take a little bit of time and gradually or quickly shift in an educated manner, then there's no disadvantage. In fact, you'll get lots of advantages.
Very well said. Yeah, I guess we have gone with the flow that has been passed on through generations, focusing on non-vegan sources for those vitamins, minerals. But if we look, there are sources. The vegan sources are there, so you don't become deficient in anything. So I know you are invited to talks across the world to talk about the benefits of a vegan diet. Is there some place we can get more information or some videos we can watch on this?
I do have a video online from a couple of years ago. I spoke at the Toronto Vegetarian Festival. And if you Google Dr. Tushar Mehta, Vegan Diet and Health, YouTube, you will find my video online. And the good thing about the video is that I give a talk, and it's pretty comprehensive about the most important factors about being vegan, and also where the scientific information comes from. But I also have a link where you can download all of the references that I use. So if I'm talking about heart disease, you can download the references and look and see am I getting the information. So it's not just me saying it.
Love it.
You have the sources of information available if you choose to look.
Very well said. So let's look it up, Dr. Tushar Mehta, Google YouTube video on vegan diet, right?
Yes, vegan diet and health.
Vegan diet and health, Dr. Tushar Mehta. This is awesome, and we have more to find out about how you're also helping certain environmental organizations. So we're going to find out about it, but usse pehle lete ek chota sa break. Welcome back to Spotlight. We are talking to Dr. Tushar Mehta, who is enlightening us on the fact that we have to be more vigilant about what's happening around us so that we can exist in harmony with our fellow non-human creatures and preserve our environment. So we were just talking about your reasoning, and that too backed by scientific evidence why vegan diet is good, and that translates into protecting the environment. Beyond advocating for the vegan diet, you also are part of environmental organizations that directly help what's happening within our environment. For example, I hear you were part of an amazing project called the Sea Shepherds Conservatory Project.
Yes, there's an organization called Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. It's a worldwide environmental organization. Some people may know the TV show called Whale Wars, which was based on this organization. So I did one campaign with Sea Shepherd where we went to the Antarctic. There are whalers from Japan who come every year to the Antarctic, and their target is to kill over 1,000 whales per year as part of their commercial whaling, which they say is research, but that's not true. We all know that. Sea Shepherd goes every year to block them from killing these whales and saves as many whales as possible every year. 2012, 2013, I spent 4 months with the organization, and we spent 3 months in the Antarctic waters, just living on a ship. And I was the medical officer, and I worked on as part of the bridge crew as well. We called a quartermaster there. And we had to track and find the Japanese ships and basically stop them from killing whales. And it was amongst icebergs and whales, and our ship was getting rammed by their giant ship, and we managed to save hundreds of whales, and Sea Shepherd does that every single year.
Kudos to you and the team there, and that is quite scary, like, putting your life online as well. So it is all the passion that you have within to really, save the environment that makes you part of such projects.
It's a fantastic organization, and if you look them up, just Google Sea Shepherd or Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, seashepherd.org, and you can see the number of projects that they have. That's one of their major projects, but they have other projects around the world to protect all kinds of ocean life. Because the oceans are in critical danger. They're, pretty much by 2050, all the fish will be gone just through commercial fishing. And it's an environment that's being devastated.
Wow, you do so much, Tushar. I mean, you're doing a lot for us in the present moment, which is going to help not just the future generations, but also us in the long run. Because I know there are people who these days come in with so many illnesses that we say not otherwise specified. And I believe a lot has to do with what we are doing to the environment through our acts. There are factors that come into play in illness that we are not aware of what it is. But I'm pretty sure it has to do with something we are doing to the environment.
Well, the environmental health, the chemicals and different things that we use can also affect our health, and we obviously lead unhealthy lifestyles in many cases. And the foods that we eat, animal foods, have a big impact. But the wider impact on the environment is about global deforestation, species extinction, and ultimately food security. Because when we destroy the environment enough, we won't be able to grow enough food for the billions of people on the planet if we degrade it that much. So those are going to be the biggest impacts. And things like climate change. Climate change is only one of the problems, but global loss of soil through erosion, through animal agriculture, deforestation, all these things, these will have a big impact on feeding the world one day.
Wow, the bigger picture is quite scary if we are not aware of what's happening. So let's be aware of what's happening around us. So I'm going to ask you, Tushar, in your opinion, can you give us a couple of tips that a common person in his or her day-to-day life can do just to do his or her part to protect the environment?
Sure. So one thing we already talked about, becoming vegan has a major environmental impact. It's probably one of the biggest things that somebody could do to help the environment. Secondly, consume less material things. The more material things that we consume, the larger our houses, the more cars, the more things we buy, our clothing, our shoes, everything that we consume and buy and throw away, that has incredible impacts on global environment because it's all mined from somewhere, disposed of somewhere, the energy used and everything like that. So consuming less, having a plant-based diet are two immense things that you can do for the environment. But also make sure you enjoy the environment. Go out into a forest and just be there and enjoy what nature like it is, not through jet skis and technology that destroys the environment at the same time as you're enjoying it, but pure nature. Try to appreciate that and absorb that as the health benefit is for you as well.
Well said. I'm going to digress for a bit now. I've heard the Tushar or Dr. Mehta, who does a lot to help the environment, help others, help our creatures, help everything around you. I have to ask you, do you have any time for yourself when you do all this? Do you have any hobbies outside where you take some time for yourself?
I definitely try. I don't always sleep enough, but have a lot of interests. So I love rock climbing. So that's something that I don't do enough at the moment, but over the years I've done lots of rock climbing, indoors, outdoors, everywhere. I love to travel, and I write music. And I think,
wow!
And you kind of know this because we've been
done
playing
a little bit.
We've played a little bit of music together. Yeah. So I write some poetry, but I also write songs and play on guitar.
It's amazing. There's so much you do, and but everything has a level of consciousness to it, where you're doing it to help others, help yourself, and get enlightened in so many different ways. You're amazing, an all-rounder, and that's the kind of doctor we need. Somebody who is in a position of authority who can spread the awareness, which you're already doing. So once again, I would like you to just enlighten us. Where can we find more information so again the viewers can come back and get more educated?
So a couple of resources that are good. Yeah. I mentioned my video, Dr. Tushar Mehta, Vegan Diet and Health. If you Google that, you'll find my video, which is very informative. And there's many other websites and videos also online, but that's a good place to start. If you want more information about Jainism, especially about nonviolence, I think this is a very important topic. I did give a talk last year in Scotland at a philosophy festival, actually, an ethics festival. If you Google Dr. Tushar Mehta, the philosophy and practice of nonviolence in Jainism. I know it's a long thing, the philosophy and practice of nonviolence in Jainism, Dr. Tushar Mehta. You'll find my video lecture that I gave, and I think it's a very interesting topic because it's kind of a complex philosophy. It sounds simple, but it's a little bit complex and very interesting, I think. So that's something
so
about
that's two of the videos, but then again, like Tushar, you said, there are links that you've provided that we can take it further, but those are the two main videos we can look at. So Tushar, it's been great talking to you today. There's so much more we can learn from you, so we're going to go to the videos. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us today.
Thank you so much. I've watched some of the episodes, fantastic guests that you have, and thank you for having me amongst those great guests that you have.
Thank you. We wish you all the best and we'll continue to follow you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. तो ये थे डॉक्टर तुषार मेहता जिन्होंने हमें एहसास दिलाया है कि वी हैव टू बी अवेयर ऑफ आवर सराउंडिंग्स, वी हैव टू वर्क टूवर्ड्स हेल्पिंग अदर्स, हेल्पिंग आवर नॉन-ह्यूमन companions, and to preserve our environment. Well, that's a wrap for this week's show. Thank you for watching us. Continue to follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and write to me at spotlight@ethnicchannels.com. A huge thank you to Mr. Dinesh Ramsey for sponsoring my wardrobe today. Until next week, this is Amitha signing off, encouraging you to become one with nature and get closer to your own spotlight.